Many years ago, I was at a charitable event for lunch, and the planning committee, the attorneys that were actually up presenting and talking about how to bequeath your estate or a portion of your assets to this particular organization. So at the end of this 2-hour presentation, which quite honestly I thought went on for an hour and 50 minutes too long, this lovely woman stood up and said, let me ask a question. Are you saying that upon our deaths, we should be leaving X amount of money to the organization? And they said yes. And that will accommodate all the things that we said we would do with that money. And she said, and what will my children receive? And they said, well, nothing, because we would be taking that asset, but there won't have to be an estate tax paid on it. So she says, well, that I'm not interested in. If there was a way that I could help the organization, yet at the same time help my family, that I would be interested in. So after she was done, I went up to her and I asked her, I introduced myself, we're involved in the same charitable organization. I said, you know, it was a great comment that you made about wanting to not only help the organization, but your family as well, and I've got the perfect answer for you. We had known each other from the past, so I had an idea of the type of net worth she had, but I asked her to reiterate, and she said she had about a $10 million net worth. And I said, what is it that you spend a year to live? And she said, approximately $100,000. I said, okay. And how much assets do you need to create that $100,000? Well, back in those days, interest rates were much higher, but we said, let's assume $2 million. If you're making 5% a year, that's $100,000 a year, and they were easily making that in tax-free bonds. I said, so what do you do with the other $8 million? She says, oh, it's in bonds, but we just let it accumulate. So they were accumulating $400,000 a year tax-free at 5% on that $8 million. I said, I have an idea for you. I'm going to structure it in one of two ways. First way is, I want you to give me $400,000 a year. And by giving me the $400,000 a year, now her and her husband were, I believe, 72 and 68. So it was an average age of 70. And I told them, based on that $400,000 a year, they could purchase approximately $25 million of insurance. Now she said to me, why would I buy $25 million of insurance? I said, well, number one, you told me that you've got $8 million of assets in bonds generating $400,000 a year that you don't use to maintain your lifestyle. So I submit to you to take that $400,000 and utilize it to buy $25 million of life insurance outside your estate for the benefit of your children. She said, and what does this all do? I said, well, remember, you still have your $2 million producing your $100,000 a year of income. You still have $8 million of assets sitting there. But now, upon death, you're going to leave the total $10 million of bonds to the organization. By doing this, charity received 100% of your assets. Now I said, what did we create for your children by way of life insurance? She gasped. She says, oh my gosh, 25 million? I said, that's right. So not only did I give 100% of your estate away to the charitable organization, I gave 250% tax-free to your family. Now, has anyone come to you to share with you how to give a $10 million estate that would have been worth $5 million after estate taxes and turn it into $25 million for your children and $10 million for charity? I said, now, I don't want to gild the lily, so to speak, because I know I'm using a lot of money, and I know you're not going to give me $400,000 a year, even though that's what you're making on these bonds. I know what human nature is, I know what you're accustomed to, and That's your protection. But I will say this. You agree that out of your 10 million, whether you have 8 million, 7 million, 9 million, is not going to make a difference in your lifestyle. She said, absolutely not. I said, good. Therefore, out of your 10 million, let's make it easy. Let's transfer $2 million, which is more in line with what she could do. Why? Because back then it was $1 million exemption for her and for her husband. That meant they can give away $2 million. I want you to transfer $2 million to an irrevocable insurance trust. The $2 million at your ages are going to buy $10 million of life insurance based on current interest and mortality assumptions. Now, upon death, what does your family get? They get $10 million tax-free. What's left in the estate? Well, I left you with $8 million. Plenty of assets to maintain your lifestyle and still have it grow, because all that extra income that you're not spending just adds on to the estate, right? It won't be long before your estate's worth 10 million, 12 million, and so on, and that you're going to leave to the organization. I just gave away your estate twice. 100%, $10 million to your family, $10 million ultimately to your favorite charitable organization. That's giving your estate away twice.